Hello, guys, and welcome back to Joe's Ventures. And today we're doing yet another episode of our Planet Zoo mod spotlights, where we take a look at some of the wonderful mods people are making and use them to talk about some of the wonderful biodiversity that we share our world with. So today, we've got a very interesting group of habitat animals covering, but first off, we're going to start by covering half of the Poison Dart Frog pack that was done by Lorby and Tosco DS. So they made a mod that gives us 8 new species of poison dart frog to put in our habitats or in exhibits. So, because I didn't want to make a whole episode just about dart frogs, normally when I get packs like these, I normally split them. So they'll do that again today, and then we'll have a couple cool animals to talk about. But we're going to be starting off today with the Brazil nut poison frogs. Let's have a look at these guys. So let's have a look at the exhibit camera. And it opens up on a perfect little guy there. How amazing. So this is called Entelopobates coelacanthitatus, I believe you say, also known as the Rio Moderna. No, that's the wrong one. So this is Albobates castrontitis. So this is Brazil nut poison frog. So these guys are a species of poison frog and are endemic to the state of Pará in Brazil. And this is a very small poison frog with a snout to vent length, or from the tip of the tail to their cloaca, of about 18 to 23 millimeters, or 0.7 to 0.9 inches, with females typically being a bit larger than males. The dorsal surface you can see is like a shiny black color with with white markings and various shades of yellow as well along the back. There is a bright yellow spot on each of the forelimbs that joins the body to 2 more similar color spots on the knee joints as well, as you can see like that. And they combine to make a single large spot when they stationary hold their legs together like that. A further spot on the other side of the calf can sometimes be visible as well. So they're really, really cool, and you can see that their legs, they get a little bit more browner as you go down them. So that's quite cool. Really, really awesome species, to say the least. In terms of entomology, scientists actually named this frog the Brazil nut poison frog because it actually has a tendency to bring its tadpoles to the empty husks of Brazil nut fruits. So scientists have noted the multi-species interaction necessary for this. So first, the tree must produce and shed the fruit, the Brazil nut tree. Then a mammal, such as an agouti, actually comes in and eats the edible portion of the nut, then leaves the husk behind, and then the husk will fill with rainwater, and then insects, toads, and frogs deposit their larvae within the water in the Brazil nut, and this actually creates a complex small ecosystem where the larvae of many species, most capable of eating each other, may compete to survive. And scientists note that not only size but also timing of deposition affects what species emerges from the situation alive. So it's a very interesting little thing to study. So the Brazil nut poison frog is endemic to the rainforests of central Brazil. It is known from several localities in the state of Pará. And so there's kind of isolated populations, but there's some distance between them, so it's actually believed that this is just a sampling issue, so they may have a much wider distribution, but they just pass unnoticed, so there's been enough study to really know exactly where they like to hang out. They tend to live among the leaf litter of the forest floor, but sometimes will climb in low vegetation. So in terms of their biology, the Brazil nut poison frog is diurnal and feeds on ants, termites, and other small invertebrates. The eggs are laid on the ground and they are guarded by the male. When they hatch, it carries the tadpoles to temporary pools, such as water holes in trees and stumps, and water-filled empty nut cases on the forest floor. It's in the name. Here, the tadpoles develop rapidly, devouring mosquito larvae, smaller tadpoles, and other creatures that share these ephemeral pools, as well as suitably sized plant matter. And the frog may become sexually mature in about 5 to 7 months. So the Brazil nut frog is common within its range, and its population seems stable, although data on its conservation status is somehow insufficient. The IUCN does consider them least concern, but their main threats are the things that affect most dart frogs, things like logging, habitat destruction, such as the convergence of forests and wildfires. Scientists note the animal appears on the international pet trade, does not know if it poses a threat to the wild population. Also things like chytrid fungus, which does affect frogs, especially a lot of these New World frogs. They are not dealing with it very well. But yeah, that's a cool species to start us off, the Brazil nut poison frog. Next up, we're going to have a look at another species. We've got the Marion poison frog, or Excluda debates mysteriosus, I believe how you say that. So let's have another look there. We'll have a look at you in a cool position. Let's see what else we can find. Oh, no, you're hiding. There we are. So look at you there. Bloody beautiful little guy. It's the Marion poison frog, or the Marion in Spanish. I don't know actually if that's true. This is a species of frog in the poison dart family and is endemic to the Colorado de Condor and the upper Marion River drainage in the Cachemira department in Peru. So the adult frog is about 27 to 29 millimeters long in snout to vent length, as we mentioned, from tip of the snout to the cloaca. And their skin is and the dorsum is black with distinct white polka dots. While this pattern does vary across individuals, there's always a dot under the chin. So you can see they've got quite a variety there and quite an interesting colour to them. So as per the type locality, its natural habitat is primary pre-montane forests between 600 and 1300 meters above sea level, especially those with plentiful cacti and terrestrial bromeliads. So the forest, this frog is largely diurnal and tends to be found near the bottoms and tops of cliffs where they forage for food among the vegetation. The adult and young frogs have been seen eating ants and short-winged flies. So in terms of reproduction, like a lot of other species of dart frog, they actually breed exclusively in rainwater-filled bromeliads, and these bromeliads need only grow on very old trees, few of which remain. So less old trees, less bromeliads, less space for them to breed. The female frog lays eggs near the branchiid, and after the hatch, the male frog will actually carry them, the tadpoles, on his back to the pool of water in other parts of the bromeliad, and the tadpoles tend to be black in colour. In terms of threats, they are considered endangered by the IUCN. They have been collected for the international exotic animal trade, which has caused their numbers to plummet due to the demand of being a terrarium pet. But luckily, several vital captive breeding programs are underway in the native region to help them, and hopefully more habitat restoration, like making sure there's enough old trees with bromeliads that they can breed in. That's another big thing for them. And as I mentioned, all the same issues that impact most species of dart frog. Yeah, another really cool dart frog to talk about, the Marion poison dart frog. So next up, we have got another species here. We've got the, no, we don't want to do that. We've got the Rio Moderna poison frog. So let's have a look at this species here. And he's floating. Well, probably, this is actually be a good look at him, probably. So this is Anthopobates quintaventatus, also known as the Rio Moderna poison frog, or ambiguously the Amazonian poison frog. As I mentioned, it is ambiguous. They are another species of dart frog. It's found in the Rio Moderna drainage in the southern Amazon basin in Brazil and Bolivia. Most records of this species actually, before 1990, actually refer to another species. But in terms of its habitat, they have been observed in leaf litter in tropical rainforests. It is known in a few protected parks, though, and got quite a wide range, so luckily it is in the areas that are protected. The female frog lays eggs on the leaf litter, but after the eggs hatch, the adult carries them to the carries the tadpoles to water, be that in the husk of Brazil nuts or bromeliad plants. So they tend to just find little areas of water, not huge ones. And in terms of threat, they're actually considered least concern, though many of the threats they face are things like deforestation, mining, fires and hydroelectric dams, things like that. Chytrid fungus, they mainly just face the same sort of threats that a lot of other poison dart frogs face. We'll actually see if we have more information on these guys. Its striking yellow and orange stripes against black bodies are warning for predators. Very same thing for these guys. Despite the small size, the toxic of diet as well. Frogs are often a bluish and greenish blue, not as sharply with their body. Don't know if that's the right species. They probably overlap the Zoopedia quite a bit, as they do. The Rio Moderna poison frog prefers its leaf litter tropical forest near the Medina of Brazil, where it blends with the environment. Males are hands-on dads. Well, actually, I think we'll actually check the last two and see if there's any new facts that we can check. Because why not? This frog's vivid orange repopulation art just will show. It's a classic example of aposimism, where it means don't eat me, I'm toxic. Despite their patch of fungal toxins, they're male Marion frogs are devoted dads. Yeah, pretty much the same. Biodiversity hotspot, which is named a many species. Um, yeah, that's pretty much the same as I'd consider it. And then we've got the Brazil nut frog. Unlike its highly toxic relatives, they have relatively mild toxins that are not lethal to humans. That's another cool one there. Uh, Aposumism, very similar to those ones. Native to American forest, Brazil. Parental behavior. Toxic comes from their diet. So I'll go pretty much all dart frogs, their toxins come from their diet. So they eat things like ants, mites, and smaller vertebrates that contain toxic alkaloids. And that's how they get their poison. In captivity, they aren't fed those things, so they actually don't become poisonous, even though they keep the colours. So that's why they're actually relatively easy to keep in captivity. But yeah, last but certainly not least, we're going to finish ourselves off today with the Silverstone poison frog. So this is another cool one here. So you can spot you in a nice little area there. Look at you. There we are. Perfect. I love the colours of this one. Honestly, I think if I had one, I would have this one because red and black always go well together. And I love red. Red is my favourite colour. But this is Agarima silverstoni. So this is another type of dart frog in a completely different genus. So its natural habitat is subtropical or tropical moist lowland forest and rivers. So compared to a lot of other species, they are quite large. So they have a snout to vent length of about 38 millimeters in the males. In females. With males growing to about 38 millimeters or about 1.5 inches, with females growing 43 millimeters or 1.7 inches. So females are quite a bit bigger. The head, you can see, has got a rounded, sloping snout and is as wide as the body. Males have a small vocal sac. The skin of the head, forelimbs, and underparts are smooth, while the dorsal surface and hind limbs are granular. The fingers are flattened and have those, discs on their tips that most frogs use to climb and stick to objects. There is no webbing between the digits on hand or feet anyway. The head and back of this frog, as you can see, orange-red, sometimes with black spots or mottling, especially towards the rear, though the hindlimbs are largely black. The forelimbs and underparts can vary in colour, sometimes being black and sometimes orange. The palms of their hands and undersides are either grey or orange. The tadpoles, though, begin grey or brown-black in colour and slowly gain some yellow pigmentation as they age, for example, over the eyelids or on their growing forelimbs. The brown areas slowly turn black and the yellow areas turn bright orange and or red as they grow, and the young frog develops full adult colours by the time they're about a year old or 12 months. So this species is endemic to Peru, which then means can found nowhere else. They're found in the Cordillera Alzun mountain range in the Humaco department, and they live in altitudes of about 1,300 feet, 1,300 meters, or about 4,300 feet above sea level. Their range is not precisely known and might be wider than thought, as they've been introduced to the Santa Marina region, but the result of this introduction was unknown. Though their range includes one protected area, so that's good. So in terms of their biology, they're a terrestrial species and often found around the leaf litter of forest floor and the tropical montane forests. Males are territorial during the breeding season and use their calls to attract females. The eggs are laid in small clutches of about 30 eggs in closely packed. So they lay 30 eggs of small clutches and in closely packed single layer underneath leaves. The males will guard them until they hatch, and then he'll carry them on his back to a suitable ephemeral pond or a waterfall crevice where they'll develop. So he isn't quite as dependent on bromeliads, but they will use bromeliads, Brazil nuts, any kind of crevice or anything that has enough water to sustain them. And then the tadpoles will go in there and develop until undergoing metamorphosis. And the bright colours of this frog probably deter potential predators, so it's a scare off predators. Much like most other species, there's nothing new, and this frog has been known to be distasteful to snakes. So this particular species secretes, as well as most toxins as well. They've been observed in most frogs. They have specifically plumotoxin A alkaloids, and it lacks the most potent brachiotoxins that have been observed to other dart frogs. But scientists also observed a frog-eating snake capture one of the species but let it go immediately. The snake had seemed to irritate and tried to run its mouth on branches. The snake did not die though, but scientists think this means this frog has enough poison to deter predators. So in terms of its threats, this species is endangered. One threat is habitat loss, with humans converting forests to farms and for grazing, such as bee plantations and cropland. The past 15 years has actually seen losses from the international pet trade, despite laws protecting these frogs from capture and sale. And they actually believe that most captured frogs die before reaching their new homes. And there's also evidence that suggests potentially that climate change, being a mountain species, could be affecting this frog because they need to move up and get to different places to escape climate change. But yeah, really, really cool species. Look at that, really cute. We'll have a look at that one. Look at that little cutie. Definitely a friend. So let's have a look at the Zoopedia as well. See what else we can find. Its frog is named after Philip A. Silverstone, a herpetologist who studied Peruvian amphibians extensively. Striking back color, the warm predators. Like its relatives, it's relatively large. We mentioned that, 4 to 5 centimeters in length. Same thing. They're only found in specific montane forests in central Peru, making it a unique part of the country's biodiversity. So yeah, it's quite cool. So that's half of the frogs done. I'll do half of the other half of the frogs in part 190, of course. And I've actually got some animals for that, which will be quite interesting. So hopefully we'll get that recorded pretty soon. So we'll carry on. Next up, we're going to have a look at the epaulet shark. This is done by Tosco DS. Always Tosco doing the interesting things. I always like seeing Tosco DS do things. Always makes things that are interesting and fun. So the epaulet shark, or Hemicylum optellum. These guys are a species of carpet shark found in the shallow tropical waters off Australia, New Guinea, and probably other places. So the common name of the sharks come from the very large white-margined black spot behind each pectoral fin, which is reminiscent of military epaulets. So a small species, these guys get to usually under a meter. They have a slender body with a short head and broad paddle-shaped flippers, or fins. The caudal peduncle, which is the tail fin is attached as well, comprises about half of the shark's length, and adults are typically light brown and above, with scattered dark spots and indistinct saddles and things like that. So in terms of its phylogeny, it was originally described as Squalus ocellatus by Pierre Joseph Bonaparte, who was a French naturalist, but the name was later changed to the currently valid Hemicylum optellum. And the holotype was actually based on an immature, the type of specimen was a 35 centimeter long immature male, and other names for these guys are the Ita shark or the blind shark, which are now used for other species. So in terms of its range, the range of the epaulet shark ranges from the southern coast of New Guinea to the northern coast of Australia, as far south as Sydney. The Capricorn Bunker group of the Great Barrier Reef has a particularly large population, with thousands estimated to be around the Heron Islands alone. However, there are unsubstantiated reports of them from Malaysia, Sumatra, and the Solomon Islands. These guys tend to prefer quite shallow waters. They are found in shallow waters to a maximum depth of about 50 meters or 160 feet. And they're often seen in water barely deep enough to cover their bodies, where they prefer things like tidal pools, coral flats, or stands of staghorn coral. So in terms of their body, the epaulet shark has an elongated body, over half of which is comprised by the slender caudal peduncle. The snout is short and rounded, with the nares being placed almost at the tip with a pair of tiny barbules. There are grooves running from the nares to the mouth, and in their mouth they have 26 to 35 tooth rows in the upper jaw and 21 to 32 rows in the lower jaw. Their teeth are quite small, with broad bases and triangular cusps, and the eyes are oval in shape and elongated, as you can kind of see there, and with a large spiracle below each one. And there are 5 pairs of gill slits, which are small, and the 4th and 5th are very close together. So the pectoral fins and pelvic fins, you can see, are quite broad and flat, and are thickly muscled, so they can use them to actually move around. The 2 similar-sized dorsal fins are placed well back on the body. The anal fin is low in position just in front of the caudal fin, and the caudal fin has only one upper lobe, with a ruminant notch near the tip that's almost horizontal to the body, which is quite interesting. Adult epaulet sharks tend to be beige or brownish above, with many widely spaced brown spots or subtle darker bands. There's a very large black spot ringed in white located on each pectoral fin, and the pair of these spots is where they get their common name. Juveniles have alternating light and dark bands over their body, which break up as they mature, and they typically reach between 70 to 90 centimeters long, or about 27.5 to 35.5 inches, and their maximum recorded length is about a meter, or 107 centimeters, or about 42 inches. So these guys are really cool. As an adaptation for navigating their reef environments, they're actually have been seen, they use their kind of fins for walking. So they bend their body side by side and push off the substrate with their pectoral and pelvic fins with a gait that's actually quite similar to salamanders. And this is a great example of, convergent evolution. So they're trying to figure out, convergent evolving the same kind of thing to do the same job. Great example of convergent evolution. The shark is capable of swimming, but only prefers to walk along the sandy or coral bottoms, even when the water is deep enough to allow them to swim. The cartilaginous support of the epaulet shark's paired fins are reduced and separated compared to other sharks, allowing them to be rotated for use as limbs. This mode of locomotion even enables the shark to crawl out of the water to access isolated tide pools. And the gait of the epaulet shark is actually convergently similar to those of tetrapods such as salamanders, suggesting the movement needed for walking on land may predate or perhaps contributed to the evolution of the first terrestrial vertebrates. Though that's quite cool, so they kind of were the closest of what those early, Tiktaalik and things like that probably would have walked like. Epaulet sharks, though, are largely nocturnal and mostly active in low water. They often hide in or below coral heads, though it is enough of the head to be covered even if the rest of the body is exposed. Sometimes they perch in an open or sandy flat or atop reefs facing the current. They're in a form of orientation named rheotaxis, which may improve respiration or predator awareness. So epaulet sharks are preyed upon by larger fishes such as other sharks, though the coloration provides camouflage. The epaulet is actually an eye spot to try to distract predators, which is interesting as well. The larvae are almost parasitized by all the parasilarva stage of Gnath arthropods. So these arthropods attack the skin and suck the blood and attach to the skin of the cloaca and claspers. But they can also be found in the mouth or gills. These parasites can actually impact the shark quite a bit. I'm not going to talk about parasites, that's not the shark. So what's really cool as well, they have a tolerance to hypoxia. So at night, the shallow reef platforms inhabited by epaulet sharks often become isolated to the ocean by receding tides. The amount of diffused oxygen in a pool can drop to 80% or more overnight for the combined respiration of the organisms within the pool. The epaulet shark has evolved to cope with these conditions, being able to survive for over 3 hours within 5% of the atmospheric O2 levels without losing behavioral responsiveness. In laboratories, though, they've been able to survive up to an hour without any oxygen at 30 degrees Celsius, which is unusual for most animals capable of tolerating oxygen deprivation do so at low temperatures. So they're able to deal with not only oxygen, but also at high temperatures. So the physiological response of the epaulet shark to low oxygen medicated by the nucleus acetide. In hypoxic conditions, the heart and ventilation rates drop sharply, the shark's blood pressure falls by half, and the blood vessels dilate to deliver more blood to the brain and heart. And unlike bony fish and tetrapods, the blood flow rate remains constant and there's no elevation in blood glucose. The brains of sharks only consume a third as much ATP as those of bony fish. And epaulet sharks are able to lower this energy demand by reducing their metabolism of certain parts of their brain, i.e. keeping their sensory nuclei functional or deactivating their motor nuclei. And this allows the shark to apply enough ATP to prevent neuron death while still remaining alert to the environment. So that's quite cool. So basically they're on ultimate power saving mode. They also... Epaulet sharks' kind of development rate and fitness is strongly affected by the temperature during development. So temperature rises due to climate change are sufficient to weaken the sharks, which risk damaging ecosystems. In terms of feeding, these guys are quite opportunistic predators. They will feed on benthic things, so things like in the sea floor, things like worms, crustaceans, small bony fish as well. Off Heron Island, over 90% of the population, 90% of the diet of that population is polychaete words and crabs, with juveniles just taking juveniles of worms and crabs. They hunt mostly at dawn and dusk, though feeding can occur at any time of the day. They rely mainly on its olfactory and electroreceptive senses to locate hidden prey. They're capable of sucking prey into its mouth by expanding its muscular buccal cavity, so they are suction feeders. While searching for food, the epaulet sharks sometimes turn over debris with its snout or thrusts its head into sand, swallowing food items while expelling the sand through its gill slits. And unlike most sharks, they actually may chew their food for up to 5 to 10 minutes, and its teeth can be depressed to form a flat surface for crushing hard-shelled prey. So typically hunt, as I mentioned, olfactory and electroreceptive. They're actually able to, detect the electrical signals that your muscles make when you move, and they're also able to smell you out pretty good. So that's kind of typical of sharks. Mating of the epaulet shark takes place from July to December, though in captivity, reproduction occurs continuously. Courtship may be initiated by the female following and biting the male. The male then holds onto the pectoral fin of the female with his mouth and lies alongside her while inserting one of his claspers into her cloaca. Copulation lasts about 1.5 minutes, and they readily breed in aquariums, even in tanks as small as 135 gallons, but larger tanks are recommended to allow room for hatched offspring. This species is oviparous, which means the female deposits eggs, typically from August to December. The female drops the egg capsules rarely 4 at a time, every 14 days, producing a total of about 30 to 50 eggs a year. Each egg measures about 10 centimeters or about 3.9 inches long, and about 4 centimeters or 1.6 inches wide. The younger emerge after about 120 to 130 days, at a length of about 14 to 16 centimeters, or about 5.5 or 6.5 inches. The growth rate is slow at first, but increases to about 5 centimeters or about 2 inches per year after 3 months. And both male and females mature sexually at a length of about 54 to 64 centimeters, or about 22 to 25 inches, corresponding to be at least 7 years of age. So they do live quite long. In terms of human interactions, though, they are harmless to people. I know everyone's like, oh my god, sharks, but they're actually pretty harmless to people, these guys. Though, if handled, they may nip their captors. They're easily observed and handled by beachgoers as they move slowly and whilst out of the water, and show little fear of humans, though the shark is often injured by these encounters. They are often actually quite well adapted to captivity. They adapt readily, and are displayed in many aquaria across United States, Canada, and Australia. And actually sometimes considered the best shark for a home aquarium. And they will breed in activity pretty well, even in tanks as small as 510 litres or 135 gallons, though full-grown sharks are best housed in 180 gallon or 680 litre tanks. And they're not compatible in community tanks as they will eat most other fish. So the IUCN considers them least concern. They are considered common in Australian waters and are not often captured by commercial or recreational fisheries, and are minimally affected by collection for the aquarium trade and fishery bycatch because they breed so readily in captivity. Much of its Australian habitat is encompassed by protected marine parks as well, though off New Guinea they have been assessed as near threatened as they face things such as habitat degradation, destructive fishing practices, and over-exploitation of artisan fisheries. And in 2015, the behaviour of an epaulet shark was actually filmed in detail for the BBC for a first episode of a new documentary called Shark, released at around the 40th anniversary of Jaws, and showed their ability to walk on land and hunting behaviours in the tide. So they are really cool when walking around. So I know that, they're based on a caiman and they've got to walk around, but actually it's not too far off what they do in real life. So that's quite cool. Really do love to see an epaulet shark, so we'll let them run off and do their thing. Again, done by Tosco DS, and these frogs were done by Lorby and Tosco DS. Next up, we've got a Great Cakes mod. We always got to have a Great Cakes mod in there somewhere. So starting off, we have got the Angolan colobus. So a really, really cool one there. It's not the black and white colobus with the big thing of fur across the body. They've just got it at the front. So they're also called Colobus angolensis, also known as the Angolan black and white colobus, or the Angolan colobus. These are a primate species of Old World monkey belonging to the Colobus genus. There's believed to be about 6 subspecies described and 1 undescribed one, though I'm not sure how actually true the subspecies are, but there's about 6. So in terms of physical characteristics, like all black and white colobus monkeys, they have black fur and a black face, as you kind of see there. They got that black face there. Surrounded by long white locks of hair. They also have a mantle of white hair, as you can see as well, on their shoulders. And the long, thin tail can either be black or white, but the tip is always white. There is slight regional variation of the total amount of white on the body and the length of the fur, with animals living in mountains having longer, thicker fur than the ones in the lowlands to help better protect against the cold. The Angolan colobus has a head to body length of about 50 to 70 centimeters, while males are usually larger than females. The tail is about 75 centimeters long, so just about as long as their body, and they have a head to body, or they have a weight of about 9 to 20 kilograms. That kind of gives you a better idea about them. Have a look at this one up here. So in terms of their distribution habitat, these guys are found in dense rainforest, both in lowlands and coastal mountains. They live mostly in the Congo Basin, to the south and northeast of the Congo River, as far as Burundi, Rwenzori, and southeastern Uganda. They can also be found in East Africa, around the interior and coastal forests of Kenya and Tanzania, and in isolated mountain areas. Although this species is named after Angola, they're actually quite rare in that country. And all the colobus species, these guys occur in the southernmost latitudes. So these are the most southern species of colobus. Their geographical range lies south of that of the mantled gazelle, and they're found up to about 2,450 meters above sea level in Kenya. So in terms of their behavior and ecology, they're not too different from other species of colobus. All colobus species are very social and live in groups of up to about several hundred individuals, although most groups tend to be much smaller, and their diet consists of mostly leaves, but also a lesser amount of fruits and seeds. So yeah, that's pretty much about it. But you can have a look at these wonderful species. I love that we're getting a bit more variety, and I like the hair. The hair is always, nailed. And we'll have a look at the baby for a minute. Let's see if we look at the baby. That's not what we wanted. Look at the baby. Oh, really, really cute. I'm definitely a big fan of these guys. Bloody winner. Love it. Another great cakes mod. Knocked out of the park. But last and certainly not least for today, we've got a mod by Yellow Pangolin. How can you not love a Yellow Pangolin mod? You've got here the South American sea lion. Let's see going on in here. Have a look at the big boy. Look at him go. How adorable. So the South American sea lion, or Octara flavescens, also known as the Southern sea lion or the Patagonian sea lion. These guys are a sea lion species found on the western and southeastern coasts of South America, and the only member of the genus Otaria. And they're highly sexually dimorphic, with males having a large head and prominent mane. They mainly feed on cephalopods and haul out on sand or gravel beaches, very much like other species. We'll get to that as well. So their name, they're originally called Otara biona in 1820, but the name was kind of already used. The species is known as a southern sea lion, not to be the same as the Australian or New Zealand sea lion. Locally, they have several names, as in Leon Marino, or Lobo Marino, or Sea Lion, or Sea Wolf, which is quite cool. So in terms of their description, the South American sea lion is among the largest and most sexually dimorphic of all the Ed seals. So the males here can be about 3 meters, or about 9.8 feet in length, and weigh about 350 kilograms, or 770 pounds. And you can see the female here. We'll have a look at her while she's having a sleep. The female reaches about 2 meters, or about 6 feet 7, and reaches about 150 kilograms. So let's actually have a look at her. There must be one swimming around in there. We'll have a look at you as you swim around in there. Probably more interesting. So it's her. So pups. Oh, we'll actually have a look at the pups too now. Got a pup swimming around. So bloody cute. So these little pups are born at about 0.86 meters, or about 2 feet 10 inches long, and weigh between 12 and 15 kilograms, or 26 to 33 pounds. With size differences between the sexes exists in both newborns and juveniles. So the adult males, as we will go have a look before, have large heads with short upturned snouts and long manes, which are on their shoulders. The fur is mainly brownish, with adult males being dark brown and females being nearly yellowish, with pups being born black but get a reddish brown after their first molt, as you can kind of see going on there. See if we'll actually get them to swim. We'll move you over here somewhere, just to get a better look at you. Because we're all here for the big impressive males, I know we are. There he is. So in terms of ecology, the South American sea lion is found on the coasts of offshore islands of South America, from Peru, south of Cape Horn, to the north, and then north southern Brazil. Notable colonies include Lobos Island, Uruguay, Peninsula Valdez in Argentina, and the Falkland Islands. Some wander as far north as southern Ecuador, though they're never bred there. However, the movement ecology of these sea lions remain poorly understood, so we don't know exactly where. But there's no evidence of winter migration for sea lions from the Falkland Islands. So like other seals, they'll often come up and, come to breed on beaches made of sand, gravel, rocks, or pebbles. They also can be seen on flat rocky cliffs and tide pools, where sea lion colonies tend to be small and scattered, especially on the rocky beaches, and these colonies make spaces between each individual when the weather is warm and sunny. So in terms of their food, they eat numerous species of fishes. They'll eat Argentine hake and anchovies. They also eat cephalopods like shortfin squid, Patagonian squid, and octopus. They've even been reported feeding on penguins, pelicans, and young South American fur seals. So South American fur seals, sea lions, may forage in the ocean floor for slow-moving prey or hunt schooling prey in groups, depending on where they are. When they catch prey, the prey is violently shaken. And they have also been recorded to take advantage of the hunting efforts of dusky dolphins. And the sea lion themselves are prey for orcas and sharks. At Peninsula Valdez, they actually beach themselves, and orcas will beach themselves to grab these guys off the shore. So that's quite interesting. In terms of their life history, we'll have a look at the female while we have a look at that, Give us a bit of variety there. So mating occurs between December and February. The males arrive first and establish and defend territories, but then switch to defending females when they arrive. Estrus for females begins at about 6 days after the birth of the pup, and soon after the copulation starts within a peak of January. The male will aggressively herd his females into his territory and defend them from both neighbors and intruders. On rocky beaches, the males will establish territory, while the females go to cool off, keeping them until estrus. And on the cobble beaches, males have territories near the surf and monopolize females trying to access the sea. The numbers of actual fights between males depends on the number of females in heat. The earlier the male is to a site, the longer his tenure will be there and the more copulations he will achieve. And males are usually able to keep about 3 females in their harems, but they can get as many as 18. So between 3 and 18 is considered a good harem. During the breeding season, though, males that fail to secure territories or harems, mostly subadults, will go on raids and attempt to change the status quo and gain access to females. Group raids are most common on sandy beaches rather than rocky ones. These raids cause chaos in breeding harems, often splitting mothers from their young. The resident males try to fight off the raiders and keep all the females in their territorial boundaries. The raiders are often unsuccessful in securing a female, but some are able to catch some females and even stay in the breeding area with one or more females. Though sometimes an invading male actually adopts pups, possibly as an attempt to control the females, and they also take pups as substitutes for mature females. And subadults herd their captured pups to prevent them from escaping, much like adult males do to females, and a pup may actually be mounted by its abductor, but an emission does not occur. While abducting pups does not give the males immediate reproductive benefits, it may actually be a way for them to gain experience in controlling females. And sadly, these pups can sometimes be injured or even killed by these issues and things like that. But what's really interesting as well, despite being mostly a harem territorial species, one population in Peru is actually suggested to having a lek-like breeding system. Here, with its longer ratio of males in comparison to females, the males will cluster together and display to try to attract females, while allowing them to move freely. The warmer climate also makes the females move constantly to the water, making a traditional mating system difficult to maintain, and the group raids that exist in temperate populations are virtually non-existent here. So these sea lion mothers will remain with their newborn pups for nearly a week before they make a routine of taking 3-day foraging trips and coming back to nurse the pups. They act aggressively to any females that come close to their pups, as well as alien pups that try to get milk from them. Pups first enter the water at about 4 weeks of age and then are weaned at about 12 months. This is normally when the mother gives birth to a new pup. Pups gradually spend more time in the nearshore surf to develop their swimming skills. And South American sea lions are observed to make various vocalizations and calls which differ between sexes and ages. And adult males make high-pitched calls during aggressive interactions, barks and growls when establishing territories, and growls when interacting with females, and those kind of things. Let's see if we can spot the male. What's he doing? Put him over here. Talk about him better. See if he'll go in the water. Doesn't seem too interested in the water at the moment. It's fine, he's hungry. Anyway, they will also use exhaustions or like after antagonistic encounters or exhalations go after that. Females with pups will make a motherly primary call to interacting with their pups and grunts during aggressive encounters with the females, with pups making pup primary calls, and some of these vocalizations and acoustic features may support individuality. So that's kind of cool. In terms of human interactions, the Moche people in ancient Peru actually worshipped the sea and its animals, and they often depicted the species in their art. The two statues in the species are a symbol of the city Mara de Planta. Indigenous peoples of South America exploited the species for millennia, and then the Europeans did around the 16th century. The hunting has since gone down, and the species is no longer threatened. The species is also protected in most of its range, with numerous protected areas at rookeries and haul-out sites exist for the species. And despite this, the program's protection regulations are effectively enforced across most of its range. The overall population, though, is considered stable. There is an estimated 265,000 animals. They are declining in areas such as the Falkland Islands and in Argentina's Patagonia, but also increasing in Chile and Uruguay. And many sea lions from the Peruvian population died during the 1997-1998 El Nino, and they are still killed due to things due to their habits of stealing fish or damaging fishing nets. So they often can also be considered bycatch, I guess. Yeah, I want to see you swim. Come on, swim for me. I want to see the big guy swim. Let's see if you can go have a swim. Saying hi to everyone. He's such an interesting animal, isn't he? I just want to see you swim. We just saw the male swim and the female swim and the baby swim. I want to see the male swim. Come on. Yeah, very interesting species. I know yellow pangolin actually been working on this one for a little bit. Oh, there we are. Are you swimming? Yeah, I know yellow pangolin have been working on this one for a little bit, and it's cool to get all that variety. But look how awesome he is. It's really, really awesome. I love that down-turned snout and, you know, that big mane that he gave him. See, another bloody awesome one. So, yeah, I think this would be a great place to end the video. I'm going to thank everyone, you know. Thank you, Lorby and Tosco, for doing the poison dart frogs. You know, those are always awesome to talk about. And, you know, thank you, Tosco, for the shark, and Great Cakes Mod for the colobus monkey, but also for the South American sea lion, yellow pangolin, who's actually done a cracking job with a lot of these animals. So, yeah, we're going to let them have a swim a little bit and just enjoy him a little bit more. Let him have a swim. There he goes. Bloody amazing. That's amazing in this game. But, yeah. I think this is a great place to end the video, so I really, really, really hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Hope you guys like and subscribe. Always remember to get the little bell icon to get notified of any things. So if you guys enjoyed this video, hope you guys like and subscribe, and bye-bye.